Good. So we are bang on time and would like to welcome the versatile and dynamic BK Fulton to the Global Icon Live series. This is the second in the series, and thank you so much, BK, for coming online today and sharing your journey with us, and for being a partner with us on the
Well,
Global Icon.
thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to today. I love what you're doing. I love what we're doing. So let's proceed.
Those so I mean would like the viewers to get to know you a little better. So why don't we start like early on, youngster days, where you're a high achiever. You've really done well academically and beyond. On your I wouldn't say like extracurriculars, but you're a versatile person. And so why don't we go back to where it started out for you and your focus and all that's done for you.
Okay, very good. So I'm from Hampton, Virginia. I currently live in Richmond, Virginia, which is the state capital. And early on, I was a regular kid, grew up with two loving parents, both school teachers, and I think that was important. And I also had a handicapped sister, Shauna, who I had to take care of, especially in her early years. And I think between developing a protective spirit and mother wit to look out for my sister, and then with my parents being these educators, I had to do my schoolwork, and I was a bit of an athlete, so I wanted to play ball, and so for me, I loved tinkering with like clocks and computers and things like that. So when Virginia Tech required incoming engineering students to have a computer as part of their standard school supply, it was the first school in the world to do that. I said, well, that's the school I got to go to. And so I ended up there in engineering school, and things weren't going as well in my first couple of years. And so I started to plan my escape from Virginia Tech. And this is where things really got interesting. I started reading about success. I went to the library and found this section that had all this stuff on people of African descent. And I was reading about the light bulb and the third rail and refrigerated trucks. And I was like, wait a minute, people that look like me did those things? I belong here. And that put me on a trajectory where I went from the probations list to the dean's list to the board of directors for the university. And it spawned a career. And then I retired after being a high-level executive in the telecommunications industry, and decided that I wanted my legacy to be telling positive stories, helping young people in particular to do what I had done, to turn their lives into this thing that was represented the best version of themselves. And for me, getting into media and telling stories with powerful music, powerful images, and great acting. And for me, makes media and telling stories with powerful music, powerful images, and great acting. Okay. I can hear myself talking to me.
Of course. So that thing is working. So I think our live is a few seconds delayed.
It's okay.
That's how it is. Yeah. So that's what it was. It was coming back. So yeah. It was like suddenly I was like, we are talking to ourselves.
Right. It's like that power thing. It just started to reverberate, right?
Yeah. Oh, but that's neat. That's very neat. And with respect to sports, is that something? I mean, where you grew up, was that like a big thing?
It was a big thing. We didn't have like the internet like we know it today, and didn't have as many cable channels. So kids, went outside more. The video games were starting to come about, so there was some video stuff, but we were doing sports. And for me, because again, my parents were teachers, my dad taught at one of the schools I went to, I had to go to class and behave. But sports set me apart. And so the cool kids didn't mess with me because I could beat them in the gym. And then I also did martial arts. And so I could definitely beat them in the dojo. And so they would say Keith is different, and they call me Keith back then instead of BK. The BK stands for Brian Keith. And so what I realized was that I could use sports as a pass,
Mm-hmm.
and it worked. And so I always, was different and never really needed the crowd or needed to follow people to feel satisfied. My parents did a great job raising me to be independent and to think independently and to come to my own conclusions. And I think that's helped me throughout my career, because typically when I'm engaged in activities or ventures, or when I invest in something or become partners with companies, typically my leadership and strategy is one of the core reasons why I get involved, and also technology, because I still love technology. I still love watches and tinkering with devices. About 6 months ago, and I don't recommend this for anybody, I actually took apart my Mac because I was not satisfied with the way it was working, and I figured maybe it just needed cleaning out or something. So I cleaned everything, changed out the memory, and I highly do not recommend. Take it to the Genius Bar. Don't do it yourself. It's stressful, but it's working. I mean, I got it back together, and it's just that sort of stuff ends up relaxing me, and I'm maybe unusual in that respect.
Okay, and the formative years, was the household like with both the parents being into academics as they have been? Was it like a strict, like house driven towards that studies, or it was kind of liberal too?
I think it was liberal. I mean, my parents would ask me about my homework, but they didn't stand over me. I was pretty self-propelled. I remember one time I almost got in trouble. There was a science project, and I had planted these beans that didn't grow. And so and my dad was upset. Where are the beans? Where are the beans? And I'm like, well, they were right there. He's like, well, where are they? I'm like, they didn't grow. Because I think he was going to spank me or something. He had his belt. I was like, I mean, they didn't grow. What am I to do? And so he's like, show me. And I'm showing him the little space, and there's nothing there. And so that was fun. So we laugh about that to this day. I remember when I was failing out of tech, and then went to the library and started reading about all these heroes and sheroes and these wins. And I was like, oh, so I wrote my parents a Declaration of Independence. I mean, I literally wrote them. I said, but for much appreciated and needed tuition payments, I am now independent. I'm a man, and you can't claim me on your taxes. And so my dad was like, oh, you're a man. I'm driving up there. So fortunately, it was a 5-hour drive. And so by the time he got from Hampton to Blacksburg, Virginia, he realized that he had been raising me to be independent. And the minute I flexed, he was upset because he said, oh, you got a big head. I was like, no, I want to try it myself. I'd read all these books that were empowering. I did join the National Guard just in case he said he wasn't going to pay tuition anymore. But he said, I'm going to pay tuition, and I'm going to claim you on my taxes. I was like, okay, fair enough. He said, but I get it. I get it. You want to be your own man. And I support that. So we're going to change our relationship, and I'm going to be more one of your senior advisors. And so I was really proud of my dad at that time. That was a big move for him.
Oh, lovely.
And I was relieved because he didn't hit me upside the head. And so we became closer. And then ironically, my mom, who was just like super smart, she was like the valedictorian of her high school. We would always butt heads more because we were both very analytical. But then it was the technology. So we were on AOL Instant Messenger, and we were chatting. And when you're doing like the instant messaging thing, you can't type it so much. So you couldn't just monopolize the conversation. Mm-hmm. And you couldn't say, I didn't say that, because you could roll back up. Here is where you said it, right here, just right there. And so then all of a sudden we started instant messaging, realized we really liked each other. Then we started talking on the phone. Then I started visiting more. And so technology has been a gateway to love for me for a very long time. And And so, you know, my parents weren't that strict, but they showed that they cared about my progress, which was
Oh,
important.
that's lovely. So fast forwarding to your corporate, I mean, you had a successful innings like with companies like Verizon, and then coming into wearing the entrepreneurial hat. Can we speak a little bit about that little
Sure,
journey?
sure. Yeah, Verizon actually recruited me. So I had been at America Online, then Time Warner, and then I was working for Steve Case. He resigned, and his whole team ended up leaving the company. And I went to work for the Department of Commerce for a little while, and that was fun. It was a little much lower pace, and and then Verizon was looking. They hadn't built their FiOS TV network yet, so they were looking for someone, preferably with a civil rights background, someone who was an engineer and hopefully a lawyer. And I was like, oh, well, I'm all of those things. And so I did the interview and got the job, and spent over a decade with them helping to lay the groundwork for FiOS TV. While I was there, I also built a thing called Community Studio and actually won an award for that, where I brought community organizations on and told them about this future that was coming with very high capacity connectivity, where they could tell their stories to anyone they wanted to and create services, free or subscription, and that they would be in total control and wouldn't have to ask for permission. And so that was launched. So many of the friends and partners that I work with now as an entrepreneur were relationships that I cultivated during the time that I was leading a strategy group for Verizon. I went on to be the president of Virginia and West Virginia, and then the Mid-Atlantic region, which included Virginia, Delaware, Washington, D.C., and Maryland. And before I left, it was about a little over $5 billion in revenue, 44,000 people, a bunch of millions of customers. And it was great experience. And so sometimes when I think about, did I retire from Verizon or did I graduate from Verizon and now use all the things that I learned there in my entrepreneurial pursuits? And I think I choose the latter. I learned from a guy who happened to be one of the highest ranking African American in the auto industry. And he designed the C8 and the Beast. And he had Escalade, Corvette, and Camaro. And
Wow.
he kind of taught me that, this idea of graduating into the next phase of your career. So that's where I am now, and I love it.
So let's speak a little bit about Soulidifly, the name, the ethos, and the value system that you have with this, and what is it that you're out to achieve?
Sure. So thanks for asking that. Soulidifly is a play on the word solidify. It's about connecting. It's about humanity. The Y in solidify is a butterfly, and it represents all the nationalities, all the ethnicities on the planet, the things we have to share, and the thing that makes us common, which is the blood. I love that it's about a more inclusive narrative in media. Typically, when women and minorities get to tell their stories, they have to tell them from this prism of sorrows. So you get these tragic stories. And when you look at the vastness of the world and the diversity of the world, there are a lot of heroic stories. And those heroic stories represent the blueprint for our young people. And those are the powerful stories that I want to tell them. And so Soulidifly was created in 2017 to tell those stories. So we have cautionary tales, romantic comedies, biopics, some documentary. We focus on having women protagonists, minority protagonists, people of goodwill and from all ethnicities working together. What happens when they work together and what happens when they don't. And so we've got, 8 films in the marketplace, about to release number 9 in about 60 days or so. And then we have 2, 3, 4 more films on deck. We've got some really large ones that we have in front of investors now. So we also have a TV network with about 500 hours. We have a magazine, SoulVision Magazine. And then we have a book division where we write books and then work with publishing companies to get them out. And we just signed a deal to put all our books on Audible. So they'll be audible.com and iTunes. We'll keep going. I mean, we've got 9 projects out there now, 9 books, well, that I wrote. And then I've got 2 more novels that I'll release, maybe one this year, end of the year, and one next year. But they're already written. I just got, and it's fun. I mean, creating and pouring out and giving back is something that I truly enjoy.
Well, that's a lot on your plate, you know, to come up with that. So, so I guess the corporate experience that you've had and the creativity that is, I think, is unleashed out now, you know, through Soulidifly. What value do you think the organization has taught, or what you've taken from there in your past innings into this current innings?
Sure. Definitely many lessons transfer, whether it's a big corporation or a small company. So having a vision, motivating the team, respecting their inputs. Our team includes somebody from almost every generation. And so I've got, you know, young people represented and baby boomers represented. We've got a guy who helped Spike Lee to found 40 Acres and a Mule on the team. We've got a guy who understudied under the late Joel Schumacher and Martin Scorsese on the team. You know, my wife's a lawyer and she's a storied leader, recently won the Mentor of the Year nationwide in all law firms. So I live with a rock star. But it's this experienced team, and you're gonna hear a train in a second because I live near the train track, so please forgive it. But there's a train on cue.
Sample that.
All right. But for me, those lessons from Verizon and earlier corporations, I now apply those with our teammates. So everybody's an equity owner in the business. People bring their best ideas forward. We have more of a kind of a matrix style. So you pick whoever you need to pick for the project. I don't get any special points because I'm the CEO and chairman. If they need me, they need me. If they don't, they don't. I'm thankful that most of the time they do need me, so I feel useful. But at the end of the day, we also bring in young interns, and we work with those interns to help them to learn the business, but also to add value, especially in the social media work and some of the things that their generation just grew up with naturally. And so we've been successful. We haven't had to close anything. We give away the magazine. We give away the TV network. Our films, 100% of them have gotten distribution from partners like Lionsgate, Byron Allen's Freestyle Digital Media, Cinedon, Gravitas Ventures. And so we've been fortunate. I mean, the typical independent movie maker can only expect to have 2 to 5% of their films distributed worldwide or at all. We have 100%, 100%. So I'm very proud of that. And I think it's because of, you know, it's called show business, right? And a lot of people have the show part, but they may not have the business part. And with our team, we have both in abundance.
So, you know, there are a lot of media companies and creative arts companies have a reputation at some time or the other being either mismanaged or they don't sustain through the decades. You know, it's like when the fire's hot, it's hot, and when it's not, it just like this goes out, and it usually they don't go out well. So, what do you think that can be brought into the creative arts ecosystem? You know, from the experience that you've had and now running your own venture.
Yeah, well, there's some truth to you're only as good as what you've done lately. And you can live off laurels from the past, but if you really want to sustain the enterprise, then you need to be able to count on more than one revenue stream. So that's why we have books, that's why we have TV, that's why we have movies. We also have soundtracks, and So we've got a number of revenue streams. We make strategic partnerships. We invest in other companies and other products related to our industry, where we'll be launching a thing called pre-show probably this summer, as soon as theaters open back up at least 50, 60%. And then the other thing is marketing. I hadn't fully appreciated the significance, the importance of marketing until I became an independent film producer. When I was at the big companies, you know, you just took it for granted, market, market, market. An independent, typically we're making decisions about production value or marketing. And so you want to, it's your baby, right? This art thing that you're putting together. So you throw all your money at it. And then if you don't have any money for marketing, nobody knows that you just created this precious, wonderful thing. And so you have to do marketing. You have to throw resources at it, and substantial resources. In the old business model, you could get away with, you know, maybe a fraction of your production budget also being your marketing budget. In today's world, because there's so much competition, 500 channels, all these streaming plus services, that now you have to probably budget as much as your production budget for marketing, and sometimes 2 or 3 times your production budget. So the game becomes marketing. How do you let people know that your content is out there? So I think that's going to be the secret sauce of the future, especially as the world gets smaller and you can stream to anywhere, anytime. The question becomes, how do they know to pick you?
So it's been great to have you, you know, as a value partner and think tank with the Global Icon, because I think today more than ever, like you said, every creator, you know, music or visual arts, has the opportunity, like you said, to present themselves, but to market themselves is another ball game. You know, now you can, it's like otherwise being placed in a large grocery store and nobody knows you're there. Right. You know, so how do you get noticed? And so what do you think, like, for the young aspirants and participants who come into the Global Icon, you know, how can people use that information and knowledge to help further their careers?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I love the Global Icon because, one, it gives people a chance. I mean, one of the things that we know for sure is that talent is scattered throughout our universe. And often people on the margins especially come up with some really cool ways to express themselves. Maybe they don't have money for the best piano or the best drum set, so they come up with a new way to play the steel pan, or to play keys on a xylophone type instrument or what have you. Maybe they come up with a quirky way to hit the keys or to play the drums or buckets, but it catches on. And in a less connected world, it's very isolated. What I see the Global Icon is doing is purposefully putting the apparatus of technology, the audio industry, the video industry, the power of serious producers behind this raw talent and giving it a chance to shine for the world. And so it's cool. I think that, I think it also, you know, it's like you concentrate skill sets, you concentrate talent. So it becomes appealing for people who are watching and maybe just kind of supporting as fans. But also, I think that by creating this melting pot of talent, it accelerates the discovery of some of the best talent. And I think Global Icon will do that for people. It will help the best to rise to the top. And then if they play it right, they'll have an opportunity.
Sheila, I think we have a hand raised for a question. Maxine, can you type in your question, Maxine, if you're still around, into the Q&A? Let me see. Allow to talk.
There's Maxine. She's on mute.
So I'm just checking.
Hi.
Hi.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't raise my hand deliberately, but I'm here anyway. I'm listening from Barbados. Let me. Sorry.
Excellent. Welcome.
Thank you.
So do you have anything? Do you have any questions to ask at all?
Well,
Or
I can ask. I just want to say it's great to hear BK. I think he perhaps can share what it is like to collaborate across the water because we've worked on a project in the past, and I trust we'll do much more. I find him to be particularly inspiring, and more of your story again. So it would be interesting to hear his thoughts on what are the opportunities or what's the potential for collaboration between countries like ourselves here in the Caribbean and himself and his company.
Well, Maxine, I appreciate you asking that. And full disclosure, Ashish, Maxine is a wonderful producer in her own right. She is part of a team that created the wonderful film Joseph, which actually won the equivalent of the African Oscars. They won the African Diaspora, Best African Diaspora Feature Film at the AMA Awards in 2020. So talking about special. And that film is now streaming on Amazon Prime. It'll end up on other services. And so the question about the ability to collaborate is a very important one, and it's a good one because technology has made the world smaller, and now we have this high capacity bandwidth. We've been forced into using things like Zoom, so it makes collaboration a lot easier. What some people may not know is that in this industry, more and more the piece parts of production are not always in the same locality. So you may have an editor in California, a player in London, someone else in Barbados or Trinidad or Ghana, and everybody can do their work and we transfer the files or Dropbox the files or get them to the editor and do their part, but they can do it from the place that they call home. And then the project kind of comes together. And increasingly, that's the way I think you'll see major projects done. There's some big budget projects. You can galvanize everybody. Everybody has a hotel with the trailers or whatever's in their riders. But especially for the independents, the technology has become one of the greatest tools in our toolbox because it's substantially reduced the pressure on cost. And still have to market. And that's one of the things we're learning with the film Joseph. Soulidifly actually signed on to help produce and distribute Joseph. But having a great film is one thing, but it's the problem I talked about earlier. We have to market. And so fortunately, the team at Step by Step Productions and supporters like Maxine and myself have come in to try to help to bring our expertise and give great films like Joseph a real chance. In the world, probably 10,000 features or so get done a year. And then if you think about shorts, then we're talking about hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions, because so many people have phones and things like that. So there's a lot more content to aggregate. And I think programs like Global Icon, companies like my own, can help to sift through the best of this sea change in creative expression. I mean, a lot of people, this iPhone has a 4K camera in it, and that's as good as most independents probably use on set. And so to have that in your hand is a very powerful tool. I'm a part of another institution called Media U, and we're looking to train the next generation of filmmakers and people in the industry. And remember, 80% of people that are in the video industry are not in Hollywood. So it's important for people to know that. And also some of the most storied directors didn't go to film school, or traditional film school anyway. Ava DuVernay, Jordan Peele, these people didn't go to film school. Steven Spielberg didn't go to film school. but there's still some skills that they can be taught. And so we'll be teaching those through Media U, and we'll continue to work with the independent community. Basically, it's about reaching out. For Global Icon, you can go to theglobalicon.com and submit. For Soulidifly.com, you can go to Soulidifly.com and then hit contact and engage with us. And we have people monitoring that sort of stuff all the time.
Cool. Maxine, thank you for your question, and thanks for joining in today, and wish you all the best. I mean, I think you've accomplished a lot, as I'm learning, and to infinity and beyond.
Thank you.
Looks like I see another question from Jalea Burrs. How can undiscovered actors and actresses audition for a part in your movies? You want me to address that real quick? Is that okay?
Yes, of course.
Okay, yeah. Hello, Ms. Burrs. Good question. We typically do casting calls, and we publicize them in papers or in the towns where we're shooting. So our next film will be in parts of Mississippi and Georgia. Probably won't start filming again until March. It's a big film featuring some people, you'll know their names. I'm not at liberty to say right now, but it's going to be a really important film. But go to our website, March, let's see. Well, actually, check it out now, and then we'll post when we're doing calls for crew and cast, and then check us out, Soulidifly.com, SOULIDIFLY.com.
Excellent, thank you. We have another friend who is going to ask a question now. Welcome, Nikki.
Hey, Nikki.
Hi, Ashish. Thanks for bringing BK on. This has definitely been educational, helpful, enlightening. Looking forward to possibly working with you more. I had a question from a crew and producer standpoint, because my husband and I are both working together in a production company. We're actually working with Ashish as well. But how do you select or connect with other crews, other production companies? What is that process? I know you're saying go to your website, but is that pretty much the way in to further connect with you?
It is in the main. It's probably the easiest way, because then when you hit the contact and send your information, we have a record of it, and we know the timing, because we like to be very responsive to people. And then it's the story that is presented. I mean, you can imagine we get a lot of queries, and as people hear more about us, they want to work with us, and we want to work with them, and so we have to kind of pick and choose. But I'm a firm believer in go with the goers. Mm-hmm. And so the people that take initiative usually are the ones that get the most attention. Had a young man, and he stalked me on Instagram for about a month. And finally I was like, how can I help you? I got this project, we got to do this project. And he sent it to me. And so I liked it. We're gonna go with it. They were working on a few pieces that didn't make it totally right for us. But what we said was we'd help them behind the scenes. I mean, again, for me, this is a mission of love. This is a mission of assignment. I feel like I spent my first 50 years doing what I was trained to do, and now I get to spend the rest of my life doing what God made me to do. And that's to be a part of telling really good stories. So if you feel like your story is a positive, is an uplifting one, it's one that attempts to advance humanity, then check in with us, and we'll give you some feedback. Hopefully you have a script, or you have a pitch deck. We can look at it, and then we'll give you some feedback. And if we can work together, we'll put it together on paper. We do what we call memorialize or draft a contract. And then everybody does their part. And at some point, this wonderful piece comes together, and we get it out in front of of the world, and then let the world react to it.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you again, Ashish, for having this event. I appreciate you.
No, thanks. And
Thank
Nikki
you,
is working with us closely, BK, on the formatting of the global icon and on the different media and outlets that are available. So, because we are going to be engaging heavily on social media too. So, Nikki is bringing in her expertise and enthusiasm and innovation to have that.
Thank you, Nikki.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So good, good, good. We had a couple of questions. That's been fun. Just checking, do we have any other questions? We'll continue with BK with the next, so that, and he has to go early today for his next meeting. So BK, tell us about, recently your wife has been felicitated for something that is totally wonderful. I mean, why don't you share with us, the journey and, what she's being felicitated for?
Okay, sure. So very kind of you to mention my wife, Jackie Stone. Jackie was just named the top mentor in law firms nationwide. So the top mentor in the country. And my humble bride, she was the first African-American female attorney who make partner in a major law firm in Virginia. And her father was actually the first Black judge in Virginia. And the whole family is very hardworking, very humble. And it's really a wonderful honor, but Jackie spends a lot of her time trying to help other people. And in fact, that's how we kind of met. I was new in town, and she introduced herself and said, we're supposed to meet. I was like, okay, well, hey, nice to meet you. And so I feel like I'm the beneficiary of her mentoring as well. And around the house, I'm just a cook. So that's my story I'm sticking to.
Excellent. No, and we're grateful to the introduction with you first, through the Chalas, and really looking forward to build this further. So I'm going to check if there are any other questions, and or if there's anything else that you would like to share for today. Of course, this by no means is the end of the series. This is the beginning of the series, and BK will be back again, in a few weeks and over the next couple of months as things pick up on the global icon.
Well, it's a privilege to be here with you, especially kicking off things at the beginning. I love being the pace car, as my team calls it. We set the tone. I remember one time we put out this film, One Angry Black Man, to critical acclaim everywhere else except Richmond. And our local people were like not showing us the love initially. They finally caught up. And I was upset about it. And my team was like, BK, we're not doing this for the press. Don't worry about it. We're the pace car. They got to catch up to us. Let's just keep leading the pack. And I received that and appreciated the coaching from folk who had been at it longer than me. And then the other people finally caught up. It's like when people see you in a certain way. So I was the head of the phone company. So they saw me as this executive. And they didn't know me as a movie guy. So when they heard that I was shifting to movies, they figured that, okay, well, maybe he'll do some home movies. Maybe they'll film it on an iPhone. Our first film had John Cusack, Taye Diggs, George Lopez, and Luke Hemsworth, and premiered in theaters across the country. And people were like, oh my God, you've got like real actors in your movies. I'm like, well, that's what happens when you make real movies. And so you have to, so people will underestimate you. People will think you're crazy. But when you have the vision and you have the passion, you've got to drive it. That's what I love about the global icon. People's lives are going to change because they send us their audition. They share their stories and their expression through their art. Art can heal. And it's going to be such a blessing for them and the audience. And we're collecting these people from all over the world. I mean, I've been watching some of the other shows that are on TV, and they're not worldwide. And then also some of the talent they pick sometimes. I'm like, wait a minute, that guy can't sing a lick, but is on the show because they were funny or because their story made them cry or whatever. And okay, I can appreciate that. It's TV, you need the drama. Here, we're gonna bring the talent. Yeah. And the talent is the story, and bringing the best from around the world. How cool is that? So I look forward to coming forward to everything we're doing to make this happen. It's exciting. And let's showcase the world to the world.
Lovely. Thank you so much. And thanks again for being a part of this, the early series, our early webinars. And I'm glad, I mean, we got questions, good questions, and this is just the beginning. Thank you, BK, for being on board with us, and look forward till the next time. And all the best with your releases and all the other initiatives that you've taken up.
Thank you, my friend. Take care. Be safe. Okay.
See you.
Bye-bye.